actually an internet problem because I am also
Oh, okay.
seeing a problem now. Although that means we're back, so it could mean.
Oh, and my Twitch stream just restarted.
Okay,
So maybe it was an issue, or maybe it was an internet issue.
I think my router had a quick burp. Yeah. Um,
Router burps. Okay, we're
because
back.
on my end I wasn't frozen, you froze, but I could actually hear you a little, and
Yeah.
my streaming software actually like said
Right.
connection problems. But we're back. It looks like we're back now. Okay.
So anyway, yeah. So Sweden's been getting harassed. Tegnell's been getting hassled. What are you gonna do? And he said, well, we might have local lockdowns, and that's really it. That's the whole story.
Yeah.
You actually read the article, and he just kind of waffles around.
Yeah. It's here. Let's just put the link up. I don't like this article at all. It's
But meanwhile, taking a much stronger stand, the state of Florida. Florida restaurants and
oh my
bars
god.
fully opened by the governor. And there's this amazing map. Is there a way to
Our top story
get
this morning,
this?
the governor has issued a
The map I'm
sweeping
talking
order.
about this one here up as media,
Mute site. Yeah, I can put the
showing
map
the
up. Hold on.
the ketchup red of
Yeah.
what's going on. So Florida currently has uncontrolled community spread, and the Florida governor has ordered bars
Oh,
and
that's not the
restaurants
right
to be
one.
fully open.
Sharing the wrong screen.
Oh, that's our yeah.
That's
That's our
hold on. I
research.
got it. There we go.
You can't give away the
I totally.
recipe.
I can do whatever I want.
Sriracha.
I can do whatever I want. Make your own podcast. Just make a Google document of what you're going to say and then talk about it. There's the secret. Okay, here we go. Here's the image.
Calm down. So Florida, for those who don't know, is it's right here, and it's that nice ketchup red, which means uncontrolled spread, and we're gone. And on top of this, somehow the governor of Florida thinks that he's going to be some kind of like hip guy that appeals to college students in the state,
Yes.
and with the introduction of right to party legislation. So if you remember the Beastie Boys, you used to have to fight for your right to party. Well, now in Florida, you don't have to. The revolution is complete. It only took 35 years, but here we are. Excuse me. And is it going to be a triplet or just a double? Yeah. Usually, I always sneeze in couplets, sometimes triplets. What else? What other news do we have? And so there's been another proven second infection from a new strain. Luckily, this isn't happening much, but it could be some of it just happening that we're not missing, because folks who have chronic symptoms, if they catch it again acutely, it might not feel or look that much different from the chronic or the long COVID that they're going through.
Right.
But the fact that this is happening again, and we keep documenting it, and we're proving it with genetic assays, like, no, genetically, this is a different strain than you had before, just speaks to the need for a vaccine. We absolutely need a vaccine for this virus if we're going to achieve herd immunity. Well, you need a vaccine to any virus to achieve herd immunity. Herd immunity through infection is not a thing. That's a right-wing misinformation
It
talking
really,
point.
really, yeah.
Sometimes a disinformation talking point, but
Yeah.
like we talked about a few weeks ago, even in the case of measles, which can only infect you once and gives you lifelong immunity, before the measles vaccine, there were 1 million cases a year around the world. And the measles virus had been with us for millennia. So after millennia with a perfect virus, herd immunity was never achieved. Herd immunity is not a thing without a vaccine. You heard it here. I stand by it.
All right. Let's move on to
yeah.
science.
Yes.
Let's
So-
let's talk about how South Korea has eliminated coronavirus risk from foreign travelers. You checked out this article. Explain to me what they're doing.
So it was a reporter from Korea who went back to visit her parents, talking about all the restraints that were in place going to Korea versus coming back from Korea, and it was absolutely amazing, right? So to get on the airplane, had to have all sorts of paperwork approved. Okay, where are you going? Who are you going to be with? How long are you going to be there? And then on the way, so before getting on the flight, then there was like the thermal scan on the flight. there was information. Okay, where are you going? Do you have a plan, or do we need to put you into government-sponsored 15-day quarantine hotel? And when you arrive, you get tested the morning after. As you're going through customs, you have to download an app. You have to show them you've downloaded it. You have to show them you've set the correct permissions for the app. They take your device and confirm that everything's correct. They want a phone number of somebody who's going to be responsible for you as a contact if you're not going into quarantine.
Okay.
They phone that person regardless of what time it is, and they confirm that that person is there answering the phone. They ask them all sorts of questions about you, and they ask them, are you legally willing to accept responsibility for this person? Then they come and get you. Off you go. The morning after you arrive, you go for your coronavirus test, and it's quick because there's lots of tests and lots of testing sites in Korea. If you remember when we talked about this back in late March, they had initially, and a lot of people have forgotten this by now, they had the fastest growing trajectory in the world for a while because of that outbreak linked to a church.
Mm-hmm.
And they got on top of that by basically like testing 1 million people connected with that outbreak, testing a wide map of people right away. So then when you're there, they call you every single day. And while you have that app on that everybody in the country has, it's sending you pings, sort of like Amber Alert, that, oh, there's been a case in this village next to your village or the town or the city. And then when you go back to the airport at the end of your holiday, you got to take a special approved vehicle, and everyone's in masks, and you go through this approved process. Then you get on the plane, you come back to America, and you get handed a pamphlet from the CDC saying, distance, wash your hands, and if you feel you need to, self-isolate. So that's the difference between traveling to Korea and traveling to the U.S.
And all of that seems pretty reasonable, like for something this big of a deal. And I love the idea of, do you agree to be responsible for this person? Because you get that question from the government and you go, oh, fuck, that guy's an asshole. No, send him back. You literally, is my friend going to wear their mask, or are they some dumb anti-masking? Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be a mega jerk about this.
Yeah.
And you just never know, right? You never know with some people. So, I wish everybody was doing that. I wish Canada was doing that.
Yeah.
We're sort of in between. Canada always ends up being mama bear when it comes to things.
Yeah, it would be nice if you could please do this thing that would be good for everybody. You know, if it's no trouble. I don't know. I guess I'd rather that than fascism, but yeah.
Masks are great, and I wear a mask, and you should wear a mask too.
You should totally wear a mask. That should be what we say to Canadians, and then if you're not Canadian, we should do but you guys, you're second-class citizens, wear a mask. Or else. I'm going to jump straight to the app roundup, because I think that's a good way to lead. So Rob and I have talked about the Canadian COVID alert app that we use. Apparently it's still not quite turned on in BC.
Some provinces haven't agreed to kind of roll it out yet.
Right.
I don't know why, but
it's really odd.
It works on my phone. I get an alert every week telling me about my exposures, even though apparently it hasn't been turned on in BC, and my location is set to BC. So,
well, so what the turned on mean is that there's no way in BC for somebody who confirms COVID to provide their number that then tells everybody they've connected to, hey, this person that you connected to has COVID.
Well, I wonder why it's telling me that I've had 0 exposures.
Because nobody's been able to report.
You'd think instead it would say this app is not yet activated.
Yeah, it should.
Because one of these is not false reassurance.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Anyway, so that's the Canadian one called COVID Alert. These all use a thing called Exposure Notification System, ENS, which is an API, which is an application programming interface, that's a way for your program to connect to other programs, is what an API is. You can think of it as just a kind of a programming connector that other programs can connect to and go, give me some information back and forth. So Canada's not the only one that has this. A bunch of American states Alabama, Delaware, Guam, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, Wyoming, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, as well as a lot of countries have apps using this system. And AndroidPolice.com, which is my favorite Android news website, has a regularly updated roundup of these apps that are available. So no matter where you are, you can go to this page that we linked in chat. If you're just listening to this or watching this or something and you want that, just Google Android Police COVID tracing app roundup, and you'll find it. There's no way that won't be the number one result. Get it on your phone. These are great. We've gone over why these are secure before. They're only using Bluetooth, so they're only connecting to people's Bluetooths that are very near you, because Bluetooth is within about a 6 to 10 foot range. And all that it's passing is it makes a random number and goes, hey, here's a random number I made. That's it. And it keeps track of all the numbers it gives out. And then if you get COVID, you get a number that it then tells everybody who had those numbers that you generated, hey, somebody you connected to had COVID, and then go in and get tested. And that's the way that we don't have to randomly test everybody. We test everybody you came in contact with, which is going to be a much more efficient way of finding all the people who have been exposed. Yeah, good stuff. Who do we talk to in BC to get that turned on, Rob?
Well, I think it probably ultimately is a decision of... I don't know if it's the BC Centre for Disease Control or the provincial health officer, or whether it has to come from the Minister of Health level.
Yeah.
But because in the Canadian Constitution, health is provincial, anything that's federally initiated that relates to health, the provinces have to voluntarily get on board.
Right.
So come on, BC, get on board.
We have another study saying that most homemade masks are doing a good job. Did you find the actual study? Do you still have that link up?
I found the link to the actual study. I will put that.
So we won't go into it too much. It's just saying a lot of what we've already said. Yeah.
Yeah. Medical masks, or those blue 3-layer kind of special fabric, or not fabric, but fancy technical paper masks are the most breathable and have the most stopping power for droplets. But even a wide variety of homemade fabric masks are breathable and stop droplets with good efficacy, enough to significantly reduce your risk of outbound and inbound transmission.
Yeah, we've had a few that have even listed the effectiveness of things, and I remember one that was like scarf 50%, don't bother. And I was like, wait.
Oh, bandanas.
Bandanas.
Yeah.
And I was like, if all I've got's a bandana, I'm going to wear the bandana. I'll take 50%.
Right.
I'll take it. It's better than nothing.
And try and double the thing up, or tie it so it's not just going flap.
Oh, yeah, for sure, right? Totally tie it into a... do they talk about how well they work against aerosols?
Good question. This is more like this is a study of droplets of different sizes, and they've got this fancy. Here, I'll see if I can pull up this image. Oh, come on.
So while you pull that up, so Rob's the doctor, but my feeling on the whole COVID can aerosolize thing is yes, it can. But in generally small amounts. But there are times when those small amounts could accumulate and actually cause a problem. But I don't feel like COVID aerosolizing, floating around in the air the same way that measles does, as a much smaller molecule. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's a thing to be overly worried about at this time. I think you're much more in danger of getting coughed on by somebody directly with big droplets while you don't have a mask on.
Okay, so I'm going to have to quit COVID to do it. Quit Discord, so I'm not going to bother.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but there's this nice image, but I can put the link into the chat. Yeah. So, but generally, yeah, so... I guess the short answer is we don't know. Traditionally speaking, regular kind of cloth masks don't work against aerosols, which are roughly the 5 micrometer range and smaller. But we're learning a lot about aerosols that we didn't know before, and so all these issues probably just have to be re-examined. There was a really neat Fauci was giving this update and saying, we've learned a lot from our colleagues in physics, whereas previously, we thought that anything larger than 5 micrometers was ballistic and was just being pulled down to the floor by gravity. The aerosol physicists have shown us convincingly that there are droplets, aerosol particles larger than 5 micrometers that are carried aloft and can be carried some distance. So we're having to revise our understanding of transmission constantly. So one nice thing, as we talked about previously, that's knowledge we don't have to give back. We get to keep that for when we move on to pandemic 2.0.
Yeah.
But as we've talked about previously, even if if you're wearing a mask and something gets through, typically the mask stops enough that you're much more likely to have an asymptomatic case or a mild case because your infectious dose is smaller, so your immune system can get the jump on it a little bit quicker.
So that's a good thing too. Ischemia was talking about telling their patients when they ask that I think that's probably the message to convey, which is we don't totally know, but we're pretty sure it's going to at least reduce the amount that gets through, and that will probably, even if it does something, reduce the severity of your symptoms.
Yeah,
so the message is still wear that mask.
Just wear it.
It's not like
protects others.
It's not like you're going to go, oh, this mask doesn't protect me against aerosols and throw it away. That's like saying, oh, this bulletproof vest doesn't stop me against like armor-piercing headshots. Great, that's exactly right. Oh, this bulletproof vest doesn't help me against headshots. Peh, throw it away. In the meantime, people are just aiming center mass all the time. Yeah. We talked about the gargle test. Should we go over this quickly? Because we're almost at an hour in.
So BC is working on a gargle test. They haven't published accuracy on it yet, so we don't know. But the nice thing is, like a lot of these rapid tests that are coming, if it's right in front of you and you can do it in 15 minutes and don't have to send it off to a lab, it's okay if it has less accuracy, because you can either just re-administer the test, or you can go back to the gold standard and still go ahead and get a PCR. What this should do is tell us information right away, whether somebody is more likely or less likely to have the coronavirus, which can be really important information.
Yeah.
If you test positive and it's a false positive, well, we can just retest you. And if you kind of come up with a positive and a negative, we got to split the difference. Okay, well, why don't we isolate you until you get a PCR? And if the PCR is negative, then come on back.
Schemiel has a question I don't think that we have looked into at all. Have you heard about this, Rob? Might be something.
We know the virus is present in semen. We have no idea what its infectious potential is.
I'd say for now, avoid bukkake. Like, you don't want to get it in your eyes.
There's probably a lot of good reasons to avoid that anyway, that have to do with other transmissible infections. But just add coronavirus.
Should generally.
Always a solid rule.
Yeah.
Many of my patients are like, we wore masks but not condoms. Well, yeah. All you can do is go, we don't know. We've detected the virus in semen, in seminal fluid. Beyond that,
better safe than sorry. I mean, come on. Like,
yeah.
Like,
because
I hate condoms. Why take that risk?
Yeah. And there's a new study. This will speak to our folks who've that watch the show that have had the virus and are suffering with symptoms. Now, persistent fatigue is a significant burden for more than half of coronavirus patients. Half. So long COVID, which we thought affects maybe 15 to 20% of people, there are folks who just have fatigue as their ongoing burden. And there's lots of them. So let me I don't know I couldn't get to the original study, but here's the news report anyway. And these folks studied researchers at Trinity College in Dublin found more than half of the recovered patients examined for a study. I wish they had 128 patients, mean age of 50, recruited 10 weeks following recovery. 54% were women. 56% were hospitalized for COVID-19 symptoms. They used something called the Chalder Fatigue Score, a series of 11 questions about lack of energy. Severity of illness did not determine level of fatigue. The researchers noted that women with depression were more likely to experience the post-viral syndrome. Women made up just over half the study participants, but represented 2/3 of those with fatigue. Analysis of participants' pre-existing conditions. Depression was identified in a little over 13% of participants with fatigue and less than 2% of those without fatigue. So there's a link with depression, but it's not a huge link. It's not a link that can explain why more than half are suffering, and it's unclear what the difference, what the gender difference is all about. Again, it's a study that raises more questions than it answers. But even if you are phenotypically male, this study is telling us that about 1/3 of you are going to end up with chronic fatigue. We don't know how long that lasts, so because this was 10 weeks after recovery, and it's not clear whether they're going to follow these folks out to resolution.
Yeah.
Here's ischemia. I've got fatigue, tachycardia. My pulse is 124 while sitting and reading calmly last week. Feeling feverish, general weakness. And you had your case back in March, didn't you? If I recall, you got your case quite early. I seem to remember. But yeah. So late March. So wow. Yeah. So this is a whole lot of months going in and no break yet. One of the lucky early New York City cases. Lucky.
And it's not just that, it's also, it can affect your heart. I'm going to post that link in. We can just gloss over it pretty quickly, but damn.
Yeah. As we know, right? So there's that that cardiac, excuse me, cardiac bruising would be the way to think about it. Unknown what the long-term effects of that are going to be. If I punch you in the shoulder, we might expect some bruising in the muscle, and that's going to recover. Hopefully, it's the same thing in cardiac muscle. I guess we're going to find out. We're going to find out what happens to this inflammatory myocarditis.
Yeah. All right, let's do some good news.
All right.
Dogs
at Helsinki Airport. Go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
Dogs deployed at Helsinki Airport can detect COVID with almost 100% accuracy. It's more like 95%. The Helsinki ones, they're saying 100%, but others are 95%. So let's not be all that much. And this test is so simple. They perform a wipe they have a wipe that is swiped on a passenger skin. It's then placed in a cup, and then they bring that to a separate booth in case people have problems with dogs, right? So that way there's no direct interaction with the dogs. The dog will sniff the sample. If it detects COVID-19, they will make a physical sign. It's my understanding that's usually they'll like lie down or sit or something like that. And they are super, super accurate at this. They're not even sure why. But there was a recent French study where dogs were trained to smell the difference between an armpit sweat from healthy people and those with COVID-19. That was 95% certain. A recent German study that did the same with saliva samples, 94% accurate. So like dogs can smell COVID or something that a person with COVID releases through their sweat anyway, or through their bodily secretions.
Once again, we don't deserve dogs.
We don't.
But they just keep hanging around.
We don't. They're so great.
Yeah. So so we'll see if that is a rapid test that gets rolled out, because that involves no reagents, no spitting in cups, nothing.
That's just Terminator predicting the future once again.
But who knows how long it takes to train dogs to do this? I have no idea. But if there's a lot of motivated dog trainers and owners, this maybe could get rolled out pretty fast. Maybe we could redeploy all those airport narc dogs.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh no, you've got cannabis in your bag. You're a threat to flight safety. Well, probably the opposite of a threat to flight safety.
Yeah, right.
But coronavirus. Okay, that's a threat to flight safety. Let's let you know what's going on. But just imagine you could have the coronavirus pupper at the door as all the kids are coming into school every morning. Like, how amazing would that be? Kids would love it.
Yeah.
You get to see the COVID dog.
And as well as dogs, another thing that we don't deserve is horseshoe crabs.
Yeah. So there's this great picture here.
I'm going to share it.
Yeah. So there's been a long-standing product, horseshoe crab blood. and there's horseshoe crabs being bled. And this has been a
horrible.
product that's been used for decades and decades because it is uniquely sensitive to pyrogens, which are impurities in pharmacological material that are going to be administered, particularly by injection. So if you are making pharmaceutical compounds for injection, one of your quality steps is to put a little bit of it into material made from horseshoe crab blood to see if it's safe for human administration. So that material is available in hospitals all over the world, or anywhere that does intravenous injection. And now, because there are a massive ramp up in coronavirus tests all over the world, we're now into 10 phase 3 trials, and phase 3 trials typically have around 30,000 individuals. So there's suddenly a huge global demand for horseshoe crab blood. We'll see how this impacts the global supply, because there's still all sorts of drugs that get injected intravenously that need to be tested for pyrogenicity, which means it's the ability it's an impurity that can cause a febrile reaction or a fever in a patient. Interesting little tidbit: you probably didn't know that horseshoe crab blood and horseshoe crabs are an unsung hero in sterile medicine.
It's one of the few blue bloods on this world that we should be thankful for.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to disinformation and scams. We've only got one so far, which is just
it's not even really coronavirus related. It's just infuriating, and we can't just keep the infuriating stuff to ourselves. It's a channel I follow called Bad Medical Takes, and if you're on Twitter, I highly recommend following Bad Medical Takes if you want a daily dose, or more than daily dose, of medical misinformation and infuriation. So the Blonde Patriot says, "I've been wondering when seeing St. Jude commercials on TV if they've been telling parents their kids have cancer, but have been secretly withdrawing adrenaline from the kids instead." For those who don't know, St. Jude's, those are hospitals that treat children with cancer. It's a chain of hospitals, and they also do a lot of work with underprivileged families who can't afford cancer treatment. It's just, it's a purely good thing. They treat children with cancer, and many of them can't afford the treatment. Many of the families can't afford the treatment. And Sherryback replies, "I've been wondering about this too recently, and have been suspicious of St. Jude's for years. Why are there so many kids who have cancer? Oh.
Why are there so many kids with cancer at these cancer hospitals for kids?"
I mean, just imagine being the parents of a kid with cancer and just running across this on Twitter. Like, how motivated are you to reach through the screen and just throttle these people? Get your goddamn conspiracies out of my life.
Yeah. And when you first shared this with me, I was not aware that St. Jude's was a cancer hospital for kids. So my thought was, is this some school where maybe there was like some kind of cancer-causing agent, and a bunch of kids there have caught cancer, and now they're claiming that they have, but that's not what it was. But anyway, that would have been like less ridiculous to me.
Scammy lover, I'm running for the St. Jude's fundraisers right now, and this is wild. Yes, it is wild. Q is rapidly penetrating all sorts of angles in society. It's sort of like, you spill a bunch of water and it goes everywhere, and it always finds the lowest possible level. So now we're raising suspicion about hospitals that treat children with cancer. Well done, Q.
Totally.
Disinformation of the week.
All right, let's go on to Denialist of the Week. And I'm
always a good time.
Getting our images ready here. Here we go. So this is Tony Tenpenny from June 29th. Him posting some anti-mask denialism here. Wearing a mask signals one of two things. I've been manipulated to live in irrational fear, or I am willing to be controlled by a socialist agenda.
Wow, both bad things. Those are both bad things.
So the socialist agenda is, hey, let's take care of everybody. So Yeah. Yeah. Not controlled by it. I've signed on. Yes, we should take care of everybody. All right, and then we've got from August 2nd, why we actually shut down a $22 trillion economy for a 0.1% death rate. Why? July 7th, WTF. Really? You have to be kidding me. The CDC and the WHO are pure lying asses. They're not telling you the truth. This was from 3 hours before this got posted. Former Nashville councilman Tony Tenpenny dies from COVID-19 complications.
Folks, please stop denying that this disease is real. Please stop denying that it hurts you, hurts people you love, kills them, leaves a lot of so far unresolved chronic disability in its wake.
Dumb people don't deserve to die. Like, that's a thing. Like I want to feel good about this stuff, but like being that foolish should not be a death penalty.
Right.
Like, even for him, and I know we've talked before about feeling bad about all the other people that get hurt and stuff like that, but even for that guy, he didn't deserve to die because he's that foolish.
Yeah. I agree. Foolishness does not warrant a death sentence.
Yeah.
Although it frequently incurs one, it doesn't warrant it.
And I'll just post this link and we'll talk about it. So Missouri's anti-mask governor and his wife test positive for coronavirus.
Well done. Well done, Missouri.
You don't need government to tell you to wear a dang mask, he previously said. If you want to wear a dang mask, wear a mask. At least he's saying that. It's not like he's the Florida governor who is literally not allowing municipalities to close businesses down and not allowing them to enforce mask mandates. Like, at least he's saying, if you want to wear one, wear one.
He's a right to party in Florida.
You should...
Until you're too fatigued and short of breath to go to the party.
Yeah. Can't stop partying. So let's get on to our... I guess, should we just do the video? Should we just do the video?
So our denialist of the week, this has been an ongoing Twitter war. There is a disinformation journalist. His name's Alex Berenson. And he's been in an ongoing battle with virologist Angie Rasmussen. And she finally just had enough and said in a tweet to Alex, just stop lying about the coronavirus. And he said, oh, lying, big words, show me the evidence. You can't. And this is liability language. So here's a supercut she provided. Alex is the guy with the Malcolm Gladwell hair there. And you'll see what I mean.
Look at Tucker's face.
Yeah, that's just Tucker's resting dope face.
I know.
Yeah. The fish stick air is where the story is. So he's always at the center of it.
I haven't watched this yet. This is Joe Fulgham reacts to COVID bullshit. We might pause and discuss.
Our leaders are spending time haranguing us about masks and destroying the economy with lockdowns, and every day it makes less sense, and every day it's more infuriating, Tucker. The other big issue is masks, and this idea that we're going to trade, we're going to reduce some restrictions on businesses, but in return, everybody in Los Angeles County, for example, has to wear masks when they go outside.
Yeah.
This is absurd. It's absurd on a number of levels. First of all, there's very, very little evidence that the coronavirus is transmitted outdoors anyway, whether or not somebody's symptomatic, whether or not there's a mask.
That's fair, but are they making people wear masks outdoors?
I'm not sure. I think in California they might have been. There might have been a really strong mandate at one point.
Okay.
And back in May, when we just didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
Was maybe,
so I'm going to give him this. It's fair. I don't think we should really have to make people wear masks when they're outdoors. I still do. My whole thing is anytime I'm like going to be near other people, even outdoors, like when I'm walking to the grocery store, that's generally high traffic, I keep it on. It doesn't bother me. But then as I get close to home, I tend to take it off and keep going. I also don't want to shame people who are outdoors and not wearing a mask. They might have their mask with them and take it very seriously when they're actually close to people. I think that's fine.
So no, there's no science behind this. And by the way,
we've shown so much science about this.
There's not a lot of evidence that masks would help. I know that some people are saying
there's so much evidence that masks help. What he's saying is he doesn't.
We knew that in June.
I don't know of any evidence means he's not the guy who should be talking here.
Well, it's because those states don't have masks. Well, if that's true, how come in Canada, where, as far as I know, mask wearing is not required, there has not been a resurgence?
Because we did a lockdown.
Wear them anyway.
We closed a bunch of stuff and we told Canadians to wear masks. And in the places where we wore masks, there's less transmission. And when the places where we wore less masks, there's more transmission.
Very little evidence that masks work to slow the community transmission of SARS-CoV-2 or any respiratory virus. And that's why, until this year, if you look at the recommendations that the CDC and other places made about pandemics, they did not encourage the wearing of masks.
Yeah.
I don't know what has changed in the science.
I believe him. I believe he doesn't know. No, he probably does, and he's lying.
I'm talking about community wearing by well people, universal masking. I don't know what's changed. There's no real evidence that masks work.
Oh, no real evidence, he's saying now.
For 20 years, we and the WHO, the CDC, the WHO have come up with a lot of different recommendations for what to do about respiratory virus pandemics, about influenza pandemics mainly. And they did not really recommend masks. You can go look at their recommendations.
Yep,
there is very, very little evidence that masks work.
No, of course it's not needed. I mean, as Phil said, very, very limited instances masks may be useful.
This has gone for
like
those
August
people
saying
we need to shut down society to, if we close down bars and everybody wears a mask that may or may not do anything for you, then the virus is going to go away.
Look at him starting to waffle months after he should be totally on board.
Very little, if anything.
Very, very little, if anything, now.
And all over Europe, they are reopening, despite the fact that there are spikes in cases. For the most part, they're reopening without any outdoor mask mandates, and in some cases, no indoor mask mandates. There is just very, very little evidence that.
Look at how this weasel has changed his tune slightly over time. Now it's no outdoor mask and very little indoor mask mandate.
The steps that any of these people want to take, up to and including full lockdowns, which may or may not have actually worsened the problems in New York and the Northeast,
Wow. What a piece of crap that guy is. I don't understand how, I get how originally you can be an ignorant person and make these claims. And then the instant that you make these claims, the internet tells you how wrong you are. Like, scientists go, you're totally wrong, and here's the evidence that masks work, the thing that you said doesn't exist. And either you look at it and don't care because you want to keep going on to Tucker's show, or you don't look at it, and again, you're not the kind of person who should be on a show talking about this stuff.
Maybe you shouldn't be doing science journalism.
Yeah, this guy's a bad science journalist, and it seems like on purpose. It seems like they pulled a science journalist from 2 years ago to talk about COVID-19 without learning anything about COVID-19.
He's
right?
He's the Johnny Ioannidis of science reporters.
So he is our denialist of the week, Alex Berenson.
Well done, Alex. Your cardboard trophy's in the mail.
Fuck.
Now, time for a palate cleanser.
Yeah, some good stuff.
So here's what it looks like when a scientist is going after disinformation.
Yeah, this is some good stuff here.
Do you have any second thoughts about your mitigation recommendations, considering the evidence that despite all of the things we've done in the U.S., our death rate is essentially worse than Sweden, equivalent to the less developed world that is unable to do any of the things that you've been promoting? Do you have any second thoughts? Are you willing to look at the data that countries that did very little actually have a lower death rate than the United States?
You know, Senator, I'd be happy at a different time to sit down and go over detail. You've said a lot of different things. You've compared us to Sweden, and there are a lot of differences. And you said, well,
So you've said a lot of different things. I am pretty sure after him saying that Dr. Fauci knows of the term Gish Gallop. That's what I feel. He didn't call it a Gish Gallop, but that is a good way of pointing out, I know how this tactic works, you bullshitter.
Right.
You know, there are a lot of differences between Sweden.
So for those who don't know, the Gish Gallop is what's the guy's first name? Dwayne Gish.
Dwayne Gish.
Dwayne Gish was this creationist, I think, who would just
he was a biochemist who basically made his fame and fortune, to whatever degree those were, as the founder of the CSR, Creation Science Research Institute.
Yeah. And his strategy was just to just bullshit, like just so much bullshit that each part of which took 10 times longer to counter than for him to just say it. And so you could never get through every single pile of bullshit that he would bring up in a debate. Like, you would just be like, you couldn't spend the time on it because you'd have even time. So that's the Gish, and that's a strategy he would use all the time. And we would see from denialists and bullshitters all over. Anyway.
But compare Sweden's death rate to other comparable Scandinavian countries. It's worse. So I don't think it's appropriate to compare Sweden with us. Yes, we have. I think in the beginning we've done things based on the knowledge we had at the time, and hopefully, and I am, and my colleagues are humble enough and modest enough to realize that as new data comes, you make different recommendations. But I don't regret saying that the only way we could have really.
So that's very antithetical to Republican thought. Is as new data comes, you make different recommendations, right? That's seen as waffling to the right. That you don't change your mind even when there's new information. And they are going to get us killed because of that.
Stopped the explosion of infection was by essentially, I want to say shutting down. I mean, essentially having the physical separation and the kinds of recommendations that we've made.
You've been a big fan of Cuomo and the shutdown in New York. You've lauded New York for their policy. New York had the highest death rate in the world. How could we possibly be jumping up and down and saying, oh, Governor Cuomo did a great job? He had the worst death rate in the world.
No, you misconstrued that, Senator, and you've done that repetitively in the past. They got hit very badly. They've made some mistakes. Right now, if you look at what's going on right now, the things that are going on in New York to get their test positivity 1% or less is because they are looking at the guidelines that we have put together from the task force of the 4 or 5 things of masks, social distancing, outdoors more than indoors, avoiding crowds, and washing hands.
Or they've developed enough community immunity that they're no longer having the pandemic because they have enough immunity in New York City to actually stop.
I challenge that, Senator, because I want to, please, sir, I would like to be able to do this because this happens with Senator Rand all the time. You were not listening to what the director of the CDC said, that in New York it's about 22%. If you believe 22% is herd immunity, I believe you're alone in that.
Look at that smile. Look at that little smile.
We stand.
Yeah, I like that. I like that polite F you, liar. I'm a big fan. Let me... So that's the show. That's our good stuff. We got another good stuff to leave you on, but I think we're going to do our goodbye and then leave you. This is a song that Rob picked out. I barely know anything about it. We're going to play you a video on our way out. Rob, do you have anything you want to say before we head out?
Sensation. Bringing back early 80s, post-disco, smooth funk.
All right, here we go. So, again, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for everybody in the chat for saying hi and adding to everything here. Again, please tell people about the show. Try to get them here on Sundays at 7. We'd really like to see more people show up for the show live. That would be great. We're going to leave you with this. Let me get, how am I going to do this? I guess I'm going to have to do this through the, Rob, I don't, hold on. I'm gonna have to do it through here. No, you're right. I don't know how I'm gonna leave us I think we're going to have to turn off our cameras. But it's fine. It's fine. We can get up and dance. That's what we can do. Have a good week, everybody.
There comes a time where sleep is the new sex.
I don't know why we're playing this. It's Rob's, but it's pretty funky.
Is better than a hotbed.
Because we're the age that he's talking about in this song.
It's totally true. We are.
Like a two-timing pig.
Alright, I'm going to turn my camera off and my microphone. We'll talk to y'all later.
Get that second fix. I just like second dinner. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Second time is always the winner. Oh yeah. Burger with all the trimmings makes me hang my head in shame. That second ice cream never tastes the same. I could touch my toes once, could make love all night. But these days it's eating that gives me all my delight. I just like sex.